Hello everyone, I am Anshika Agrawal. Today I am going to discuss on the topic false imprisonment. So, what is false imprisonment? False imprisonment is an act of unjustified arresting, imprisoning, or otherwise preventing a person from exercising his right of leaving the place where he is. It has been defined as the unlawful detention or restraint of a person without legal authority or justification. False imprisonment can be committed by either words, acts, or by both. It is not necessary in a false imprisonment case to prove that a person has used any physical violence or put down hands on another person. It is sufficient to show that any time or place the person in any manner has taken away another person's liberty without sufficient legal authority. For false imprisonment, it is not compulsory that the person should be kept behind bars, but he should be restricted in such an area from where the person has no possible ways to get away except the will of the person who has confined the person within that area. It is not about the level of the imprisonment that matters, but it is the presence of unlawful authority to justify unlawful confinement. The internment and any restriction on movement of any chattel, lattice goods, is also considered to be a part of the concept of false imprisonment. For providing false imprisonment, following elements must be presented which are to be fulfilled by a plaintiff. They are: number 1, there was a willful detention. Second, the detention was without consent. And third, the detention was unlawful. To claim false imprisonment, you must logically believe that you were confined. A court will determine whether the belief is reasonable by determining what a reasonable person would do or believe under similar incidents. Secondly, the actor must have an intention to commit the confinement without the privilege to do so. So there are some defenses of false imprisonment. Number 1 is arrest under a legal authority. It is a complete defense to a claim of false imprisonment when the arrest or confinement is done under legal authority or justification. When the defendant was working out of his legal rights and duties, the confinement or imprisonment is justified. Second is voluntarily consent to confinement, which means confinement constituting false imprisonment must be against plaintiff's will. When a person willfully consents to the confinement, there cannot be a false imprisonment. Voluntary consent to confinement invalidates a claim of false imprisonment. Thirdly, it is probable cause to effectuate the arrest. A determination that the confinement is privileged can be made based upon the existence of probable cause. Existence of probable cause is an absolute bar to claims for false imprisonment. Probable cause is defined as the state of facts which leads a man to an ordinary caution and carefulness to believe or entertain an honest and strong distrust that the person accused is guilty of the offence charged. Fourth one is waiver of right to complain. When a party is under arrest, any agreement or arrangement surrounding any further proceedings, release, and any claim for damages can be one of the defenses for false imprisonment. The arrangement must be made and intelligently. The waiver must not be procured by false representatives or by coercion. Next is res judicata. In an act for false imprisonment, an issue determined in a prior proceeding can be taken as res judicata. An issue once determined will prevent a second judicial termination. Last defense is action under the instruction of a superior officer. Although it is not a defense to an action for false imprisonment if the defendant who made the arrest was acting under the directions of a superior officer. However, the fact that an officer made an arrest under the direction of a superior officer is competent to be shown as affecting disciplinary or commendable damages. So here are the few cases of false imprisonment. First is Bird versus Jones. So the facts of the case are: Bird wished to pass a section of a public road which was closed due to an event of a boat race. Two policemen prevented Bird from passing in the direction he wished to go, but was allowed to go in the only other direction in which he could pass. Bird refused to go in that direction and stood in the same place. Bird raised an action for false imprisonment. So the issue in this case was whether the impugned restriction from using one segment of the public road amount to false imprisonment. So it was held that partial hindrance and disturbance does not constitute imprisonment. Justice Coleridge stated at his judgment that a prison may have its boundary large or narrow, visible and tangible, or though real, still in the conception only, it may itself be movable or fixed. But a boundary it may have, and that boundary the party imprisoned must be prevented from passing. He must be prevented from leaving that place, within the ambit of which the party imprisoning would confine him, except by prison breach. A prison must therefore have a boundary for claiming false imprisonment. As there was still one direction which Bird could have taken, he could not be said to have been falsely imprisoned, as he was not confined and prevented from passing or leaving that place. Bird was at liberty to move in another direction, and no restraint or actual force was used against him. So, the second case is Robinson versus Bellman New Ferry Company Limited. So, the facts of the case are: Robinson paid a penny to pass a ferry. However, he narrowly missed the ferry and changed his mind about passing. He attempted to leave through the way he came through. However, it required another penny to be paid to leave. So Robinson refused to pay the penny because he had not crossed on the ferry. Bellman New Ferry Company forcibly prevented him from leaving until he paid the penny. Robinson claimed an act for false imprisonment. So the issue in this case was whether the plaintiff has falsely imprisoned in the ferry without having money to leave. So it was held in this case that a person can be legally prevented from leaving if they had entered a prior contracted permitting so. When Robinson entered the ferry gate, he agreed to pay a penny on both entering as well as leaving the ferry. This bound him to a contract, and Bellman New Ferry Company Limited was entitled to entail a reasonable condition before allowing him to pass through their gate from a place to which he had gone of his own free will. This case limited the law of false imprisonment, following the case of Bird versus Jones, which I discussed earlier, in which it was held that the false imprisonment is represented by total hindrance. However, in the present case, it is held that it is even when a person is totally obstructed, it will not constitute false imprisonment if there is an acceptable condition to passing. So the third case is Hurd versus Weddell Steel Coke and Co. Company Limited. So the facts of the case are: Hurd was a miner in a coal mine. He starts his work at 9:30 a.m. and in the ordinary course of work, he would be permitted to be raised to the surface from the mine at the end of his shift at 4 p.m. When Hurd arrived at work in the mine, he refused to work in a wrongful way and requested to be raised to the surface in the lift at 11 a.m. His employers of the company refused to allow Hurd to be lifted to the surface until 1:30 p.m. Hurd was thus detained in the mine until that time. He sued the company for damages for false imprisonment. So the issues held in this case were whether the restriction to use the lift in the mine amounted to false imprisonment. So it was held in this case that there was no question of false imprisonment, as due to the operation in the present case of the common law doctrine of volunty non fit injuria, which means that the person cannot bring an action against another person for tort if they had placed themselves in a position where harm might result, knowing that some degree of harm might result. In this case, the imprisonment represented the harm. Following the case of Robinson versus Balmain, Heard was only permitted to the use of exit on the terms on which he had entered. Heard had breached his employment contract by refusing to do his work for which he was ordered to do. This breach of contract justified his detention in the mine until the lift could be used at 1:30 that day. So these were the few cases of false imprisonment. Now I think false imprisonment is clear to you all. Thank you.